Clients are getting savvy and they already know because they're doing this in their own businesses. So unless you radically reimagine your business from inside out, top to bottom, and really make it outcome based, it's a matter of time before you not only lose market share, but more likely not just lose the clients, but lose it to someone else who's offering the exact same thing.
My name's Mike Lander, and you're listening to Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast, where we bring you actionable insights about sales RFPs, negotiations, and difficult procurement discussions from sales leaders, brand leaders, and procurement leaders. Please subscribe to get updates when new episodes are released. Nikki, welcome back. This is part 2 of 2 episodes around the world of AI and agentic AI. So for our listeners, first of all, who are you? What do you do? And just go back to your favorite song and why.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me, Mike. Thrilled to be here for part 2. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, author and keynote speaker, and also expert in transformation that has been helping people and organizations adapt to change for over a 25-year career. And I'm currently co-founder and CEO of Flipwork, which is a transformation partner to help companies become agentic enterprises.
Brilliant. And your favorite song and why?
Favorite song is This Girl Is on Fire, because I love that it's such a celebration of who you are and how far you've come.
Perfect. So let's get straight into the questions, because I know that you're tight on time, Nikki. At a macro level, what does reinvention mean for sales, marketing, and GTM leaders in a world of agentic AI? What does it really mean?
Fundamentally, what reinvention means is letting go of the old way, unlearning the things that you have done so you can adopt a whole new approach. For so long, we have built GTM organizations based on hustle and grind and speed.
We have, yep, exactly.
And we can do more, right? It's exactly. Volume and velocity was what was driven by.
Then we got AI, and then we said, right. Mass personalization at scale. Brilliant. That'll drive more sales and drive more madness. And it really has gone horribly wrong within 6 months, I think.
Yeah, it's, my gosh, the amount of AI slop that ends up in your inbox.
Yeah, masquerading as personalization. It's mad.
Right. We're all victims to that. But look, to me, simply put, I think back to my own career in GTM and that old adage that it's just a numbers game. I think that kind of falls apart in AI. On one hand, AI can certainly reach even more people than a team of 50 SDRs, but that's not the point. It's really about going from spraying and praying with volume at velocity and really shifting to very thoughtful, intentional, intelligent connections where you truly you shift from being a vendor to a strategic partner.
Exactly.
You go from scaling just headcount within your function to scaling agents that are able to do things in a much more intelligent way than any team could. And to use all of the discovery and the insights you get to actually adapt your strategy real time. So effectively, you're kind of going from what looks like a funnel, that's linear, to a loop where you're taking the actions, but it's feeding back into the strategies you take. And ultimately, it's about, not just looking at output, but more importantly, focusing on outcomes. And that's what changes the nature of the people on these teams to being, doers to directors of outcomes. I think it's a reinvention, and what AI will do to reinvent this function actually brings out the best of what's possible. For too long, we've been stuck in a very sort of static approach of just scaling a formula that works and just doing more of it. This forces us to not do more, but to do things differently.
I think building on that, I think there's a couple of very big things that are happening, which GTM leaders are going to have to, as you say, reinvent and also reset expectations with the C-suite. So we know that buyers now rely very heavily on trust. For bigger deals, trust is an enormous issue. And that's accelerated in the last 12 to 24 months. And we know that categorically now. There's enough research to tell us that. Secondly, we also know the buying committee is now maybe up to 11, 13 people. So not only have you got trust being a big issue, you've now got 13 people that are on the buying committee. And it's no good just engaging as a salesperson on a GTM kind of roadmap with the economic buyer. We're going to go back to the good old-fashioned decision-making units, DMUs, multi-threading. You've got to engage with all of them and build trust with all of them in a personalized manner if you're going to get a deal done. Well, now the problem is deal cycles have lengthened. So the average deal cycle now is well over 9 months. Some are saying 18 months. So if you're a GTM leader or a CRO and you've got monthly quotas that you're trying to hit and you're doing more and more and running faster and faster and you're slipping further and further behind, there's a reason for that. Buyers are not going at the same pace as sellers. So we have to reset our expectations around how and when deals close. And I think that's a big challenge for GTM leaders.
Yeah, and it's also something else that's changed in sales cycles extending that much and becoming far more complex and even larger decision-making committees is that there's tremendous chaos in every possible way. I mean, every executive I speak to, and this is across industries and all kinds of different locations, one of the most common things I keep hearing is trying to make sense of the chaos. Because you've got obviously the big ones at the macro level, geopolitics, all the economic uncertainty, tariffs, you name it, all of that stuff going on. But then AI as a persistent threat that you look at the stock market of what's happened even over the last, in Q1 of 2026. I mean, we're not even at the end of Q1 and multiple sectors just absolutely getting hammered.
25% off in, I think it was the real estate sector 2 weeks ago.
Right. I mean, whoa. Commercial real estate, logistics was the craziest one. Trucking and logistics falls, plunges almost like 40% in some companies simply because there was an upstart $10 million firm that said it had built an agentic AI tool for freight pricing. And just on that, the entire sector falls. So when you have that much going on in your business, and even large enterprises can just lose market share or, the stock market plunges. And on the flip side, they're also under a tremendous amount of pressure of figuring out how they apply AI within their own business models, within their own business functions. And yet now we've got this deluge of so many AI tools and how do you make sense of all of that? So you've got so many things happening. And to me, it's also part of being a strategic partner is the empathy and understanding of that scenario. It's not just, rushing to close the deal. It's recognizing, wow, this is a crazy time to be a decision maker when there are zero constants. Everything is a variable. And no matter what is true today could be false tomorrow. So that indecision paradox is what they're stuck in. And that's what you have to navigate through.
So in the marketing agency sector, a lot of agencies still link their commercial model, their pricing model, to time. It's a labor-based model. Been going on since the 1950s. Just take a simple scenario. So, big agency, biggish, 300 people, decides that what they're going to do is they're going to adopt AI tooling and make themselves more efficient and make the output they're producing more reliable. But they haven't changed their commercial model. Mm-hmm. Step 2, customer goes, it's great. Things are more reliable, that's great. And it's more efficient, that's really good. So obviously you're clearly making more profit internally. So what we'd like to do is change your pricing structure. We'd like to reduce your price by half because half of it's being done by AI, not by humans, and we're paying you for time and materials. So now you've got a race to the bottom and the agency's on the back foot. If you flip that around and the agency said, we're going to redesign our commercial strategy first, and we're going to look at output and outcome-based pricing and partner with our clients. And those that don't want to do that, we may not work with because it doesn't suit our commercial model anymore. And then when we've agreed that with clients, then we're going to change the back end and turn it into a series of operating components that are human in the lead, but agentic AI driven. The client won't care how you deliver the back end if it's delivered based upon outputs and outcomes. They just want the output and outcomes. If you get that sequence wrong, in my view, it will go horribly wrong. What are your thoughts, Nikki? You do this every day and you've done it for years. What are your thoughts on just those two ideas? By the way, readers, listeners, we didn't prepare this. So I've kind of surprised Nikki by this. But carry on.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the scenario you described in terms of charging by the hour and commercial models are still stuck in the 1960s, 70s. Forget about what it needs to be in 2026. I think that's a real problem across not just marketing agency. You look at IT consulting shops, you look at law firms, accounting firms, they're all dealing with the same thing. I mean, these are all sectors that grew very large, very profitable, and got bloated with very large headcounts to support a business model and an offering where there was tremendous demand for. And these are the exact sectors of knowledge worker type based businesses that are labor heavy and premium priced that AI is decimating right now.
And when you say decimating, Nikki, this isn't like drama. This is genuinely, it's decimating those sectors. Like 30% of the workforce.
It is. And you're seeing, but here's what's happening is that it's not that they don't know what the right model is. The challenge is, again, it comes down to leadership, decision-making and action that is fast enough, right? And also being thoughtful in the sequencing of it. What you described about if you go ahead and don't fix your commercial model with your clients and go and optimize how you get the work done so that you end up with even higher profits, you're going to lose trust, not just the business, you're going to lose trust, right? And I think that has become visible to clients are getting savvy and they already know because they're doing this in their own businesses. So unless you radically reimagine, your business from inside out, top to bottom, and really make it outcome based, it's a matter of time before you not only lose market share, but more likely not just lose the clients, but lose it to someone else who's offering the exact same thing, just better designed with the right commercial models in place. And so it's right now, it's sort of a race of who adapts quicker.
Yes, exactly.
It's not an awareness gap anymore, because we're seeing that. I mean, look at what happened with SaaS stocks falling 40% in January. And I mean, billions, almost $1 trillion wiped out just because the assumption that human beings needed software to do their jobs is being questioned because AI can build its own software and you don't need these kind of tools. And the same thing is true with marketing agencies. If so much of research or ideation or design,
production, execution, campaign management, all of that, reporting,
all of that can be done. You really have to question, well, what are you ultimately delivering?
Exactly.
Now, that doesn't take away the need for agencies and consulting partners. It just means it needs to be elevated to true strategic partnerships, but make it outcome-based and completely change your commercial
Exactly
models.
Right. And I think I wrote a paper recently about the future of the agency sector in 2026, which I wrote based upon lots of research articles that I'd read and my own thinking and my experiences and using ChatGPT as it happened. I built a custom GPT in a project and I iterated it over 8 weeks with my thinking and its thinking and the analysis. And you come out with something that actually is a bit different, makes sense. And I've had more engagement on that than I had in last year across all my content on LinkedIn. Why? Because it's more radical. It's very in your face, which is in that sector and other professional services sectors. This isn't a 10-year migration.
Oh, no. You're lucky if you get 10 months. I think that's, look, one of the best indicators of the speed at which this is happening is watch the stock market.
Right.
If week after week, you see entire sectors losing double-digit percentages and the stocks plunging, this is not something that's going to happen sometime in the future. This is actively happening now.
Yeah.
And a slow reaction and slow action in that is more dangerous than making the wrong move and iterating and pivoting to the right move.
Brilliant. So just talk about AI approaches. When you go into organizations and you're talking to them about an agentic journey, where would organizations start? So starting with, it's a 1,000-person company, it's profitable, it's been going for a few years, it's in the services arena. What would you be saying to the C-suite in terms of awareness isn't a problem, as you said. Now it's about roadmap. Where do people start? What should that roadmap in broad brushstrokes look like? Because everyone's obviously different.
Yeah, the challenge that the C-suite typically is grappling with, before they embark on a true reinvention journey, is where do we even begin? Because what's clear to leaders now is that, wow, this is a complete fixer-upper. This is not just painting the walls and calling it done. No. I mean, you are completely rehabbing everything. And that also means knowing what you do want to hold on to, what is too precious to lose, and what you have to let go no matter what the sunk costs are. And so that indecision often causes inertia.
Yeah, exactly right.
There's too much to do.
I'll do nothing.
And we don't know where to begin. And so we start them we have a proprietary diagnostic called the flip factor that assesses the entire organization. So in this case, if it's a 1,000-person company, all 1,000 people take the assessment. We have a separate one that is just for the C-suite and leadership that they do separately. And what it helps to assess is their AI readiness and their agentic velocity across the entire organization, that you can then identify the opportunities and gaps, whether it is by region, business function, career stage, any kind of cross section that you want to look at. It helps you identify where they are on a continuum, where are they in terms of their maturity within that organization. We also compare it to a global benchmark that is our data set to help them figure out against your peers in the industry or against general best practice, where does your organization sit? What that does is help them identify the highest ROI use cases, the highest opportunity areas, but also from that sequence and prioritize what they need to do that leads to an intelligent roadmap, not just a generic roadmap of saying we're going to start and do all of this over the next 24 months, because you need a roadmap that is dynamic.
Exactly.
You can't have static roadmaps anymore. So, but what this does is help you figure out what's the first thing to start with in the first 90 days. After we get that diagnostic, it's really aligning the executive team around the results of that and gaining their commitment to make sure that they are able to execute in that exact
and that you don't break the business on the way. To your point earlier, and to both of us, you can't burn the house down and watch it burn. So you have to do this in a systematic way.
Absolutely. And it's what they're really committing to isn't about specific use cases or specific changes. What they're really committing to is an ongoing process of reinvention, of knowing it's never going to be done. Because leaders are used to static transformation programs, right? The old school change management where it was a start date and an end date and was episodic. And once you got done, it's sort of like, hey, we can celebrate. We are transformed now. We are the next level. And you had a period of quiet where you can maintain the status quo, enjoy the benefits of the changes you applied, and you kind of sail into the sunset with that. That doesn't exist. So what they're really aligning around is there is no end to this. It is just going to be ongoing, and we're going to continuously iterate and reprioritize and reinvent. And that includes everything from the business strategy, the business model, the competitive moat, their operating, and execution plans, their culture and their people, the workforce readiness, all of those things you have to continuously do. And that can cause a lot of fatigue. Right? Because when you're doing it that way. So that's why we design all of the reinvention in 90-day sprints, so that there's a 90-day reset that's continuously happening where it creates a safe space. It provides the governance and the guardrails to test, learn, and experiment around specific use cases and specific teams getting upgraded, if you will, and becoming ready and becoming more agentic. And being able to see the results, celebrate that, see the progress, and then move on to the next thing to avoid that kind of fatigue. And what we've seen when you do it that way, the change not only is faster, but it sticks. Because what you're really doing is elevating what I call the strategic metabolism of the organization. Their ability to stomach change is a lot better when you do it in that sort of chunking manner.
Exactly right. And then after 90 days, I'm sure there's a review. Let's look at the benefits.
Right. And then they continue to
and then it's the next one.
Yeah. So we do the diagnostic is done every 90 days. So you're able to see what changed. What do you do next? Because it's not just what's changed internally, what's changed externally that you have to now consider and adapt to that. So it's a compass that's looking inside, outside, up, down, all ways. And then every 90 days, you get to create a new
Exactly.
roadmap.
So as we kind of draw this to a close, what are your top 3 lessons learned that C-suite, particularly GTM leaders and CROs should act on to maximize the benefits of agentic AI, but more importantly, I think, to change their mindset towards reinvention rather than static transformation-based change? What are the 3 big things that you'd say they should be taking away from this particular show?
Number one, I'd say no matter where you are in the organization and what function you lead, recognize this is not a tech transformation. This is truly a business transformation. And you have to see it as that. The worst thing you can do is relegate this to the IT department
Absolutely.
and think it's not going to change your work. AI is presenting every organization with an incredible opportunity to leapfrog ahead. If this could either be a Netflix moment or it becomes your blockbuster moment. You get to choose.
Good analogy.
But yet you have to recognize that AI is the catalyst. It's not all of it, right? So ultimately, when you go through this transformation, AI may end up being 30 to 40% of the real work that needs to be done. The rest of it is all of the changes around it that creates the right environment, creates the right culture, the right process, the right workflows, the right context, the right data quality. All of that work that needs to be done is where most of the responsibility lies. And being able to see it truly as this is your moment in time to completely reimagine your business in ways you could never do before. And if you get it right, you can achieve things that were never possible before. So see it as an opportunity that you don't want to miss. Don't see it as just a tech project that somebody else handles and you end up with shiny new objects.
Brilliant.
That's number one. Secondly, if you recognize that this is huge reinvention opportunity for the entire business, be very clear about the outcomes and what success looks like. Because if you don't define that beforehand, all you're going to end up with is a whole bunch of pilots and again, tools that don't get maximum adoption and people that are confused and not sure, what their role is supposed to be. So have rigor in defining the business goals, the priorities, the KPIs that you want coming out of this. And number 3, prepare and invest in your people before your tools. This isn't the same as training. I'm not talking about AI training. What I really mean is that you have to help your people become agentic. And for most people on the ground, they have no idea what that means. What that means is helping every individual discover what is it that makes them uniquely valuable that AI will not replace. And how do you help them partner with AI as a coworker to amplify that uniquely human trait and leverage AI for everything else and helping them let go of those things. That's not an easy thing because it starts to threaten their sense of self and their sense of worth. It actually creates a lot of anxiety for people to say, I'm going to let go of 70% of what I used to do even last month. That fear that, well, does that make me replaceable? Does that mean I'm going to lose my job? But until they make that shift, they're actually not going to leverage AI in the right ways. And helping them make that shift, it does a couple of different things. You get innovation at grassroots level. Every single employee now becomes an innovator because they're able to elevate to more strategic work, more high value work, and leverage technology in ways that they see as a thought partner, not just a delegator. Secondly, your capacity expands with zero headcount addition.
Exactly.
Now you think about what will you do with that 2x, 3x capacity that you've released? How do you want to deploy that? Does that go into new invention of new products? Does it go into going to new markets? Does it go into serving even more customers? Make that decision of how will you deploy that capacity? And ultimately, think about the impact of what this does to your customer relationships. It's not just about speed and efficiency because that's a race to the bottom, but how do you elevate the quality of those relationships? How do you elevate trust? How do you build authority in new kinds of ways? That's your real moat. Because everything else, if every company has access to infinite intelligence, the definition of moat completely changes.
Completely changes.
And that's what investing in your people allows you to discover a new moat.
Nikki, it's been amazing. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Where can people find out more about you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn, Nikki Barua, and also my personal website, nikkibarua.com, where I share a weekly newsletter specifically to help leaders reinvent themselves for the AI age. And then for leaders that are driving transformation in their organizations, check out flipwork.ai, where you will find the resources and the pathway to build your agentic enterprise.
Nikki, thanks ever so much.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
Thanks for listening to Higgle, the B2B Sales Club podcast series with your host, Mike Lander. Please subscribe so that you'll catch all the next episodes.